8 minutes past 11. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media. We all want to be close to our children, but it's not always easy to find out what's going on in their hearts. While some kids are chatterboxes, they are also eager to regale with us every. Others are quiet and reserved. They keep their thoughts and feelings private, and we're left wondering what's really going on inside. How can we cultivate the kind of relationship that allows us to become their lifelong confidants? Let's find out with Gugu Xaba, the Director of Programs at Save the Children South Africa. Good morning, Gugu, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Mariam, and thank you very much for having Save the Children join you in this program to talk about our children. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Start off by telling us who is Save the Children South Africa.
Okay. Save the Children South Africa is a non-governmental organization that is currently based in Pretoria, the main office, but we have offices in Limpopo, KZN, and Johannesburg. And we are servicing the whole country in terms of the services that we provide. Our main vision is to ensure that every child has an ability to survive. And when we talk about survival, we're talking about wellness in terms of physically, mentally, and spiritually. And we are also providing protection for children. You and I know that children have no power to protect themselves from any form of exploitation by different adults or other children that are around them. So we provide child protection services. Then we also ensure that children need to develop. Remember, children are born, and there's a lot of development that is happening physically, emotionally, and otherwise. So we give children a good chance to develop, because development occurs in a good environment. There are negative environments that affect development negatively. So Save the Children is making sure that we teach parents and children on good environments, on removing toxic environments so that children develop properly. And when we talk development, we're talking physically, mentally, and otherwise. In this way, you're going to have children that can be able to learn, and they can be able to be resilient to a lot of experiences that are around them. And also, for children to develop fully, they need to be fully involved. That's Save the Children talks to child participation. And all that I've mentioned, it's about children's rights, for them to be able to develop and be able to acquire a good quality of life and to reach their full potential. It means we have a responsibility to provide an environment that they develop holistically and are able to be future leaders and managers of society. I think I'll stop here and maybe take other questions.
All right. The latest initiative, intergenerational solidarity, creating a world for all ages. Tell us more about this initiative.
Thank you very much, Mariam. This initiative is basically looking at the fact that we saw a gap in generations, and we saw an ability to do things differently, and which led to conflict amongst the different generations. Let's take an example of the fact that the era we're living in right now is a technology era, it's a digital era. And then when we compare to more than 20 years ago, people then survived without such technology. Now, the children that we have now are so technology au fait, and this conflict that happens between these two generations causes them not to be at peace, causes them not to be able to live together. So creating an intergenerational and solidarity opportunity and campaign was aimed at ensuring that we can be able to groom the different generations, one, to be committed to each other, to understand each other, to be able to work together and manage the conflict. Because where there are people, conflict will occur, but if they are at different levels, they will always fight about it instead of working together to solve whatever conflict. And then once there is a connection by different generations, they are able to work together, which influences child participation. They're able to solve problems together. They are able to focus on the result that they want to see. And the result that every parent and child wants to see is a peaceful family, a loving family, a family that is able to tackle its challenges and be able to bring results for the family and improve the quality of life of the family. And for us not to have disorganized families, because you and I know again that disorganized families lead to most of the problems that show lack of peace, fighting, violence, and many other problems that we deal with. So this initiative was aimed at building a society that is working as one and achieving its results together. That's about that campaign.
All right, what a great initiative there. Now, one of the focuses of the organization Save the Children South Africa is to highlight the voice of children. How can parents do this? How can parents highlight the voices? Because, I mean, as I mentioned in my introduction, some of the children are free to come out and say whatever it is that they want to say, but others are more reserved and they keep it to themselves. And you know, they're dying a little inside, and they don't know how to come out and speak to their parents about issues that are affecting them. So how can parents do this? But hold that thought. Let us take a quick break, and we will continue thereafter.
Thank you.
Relief, Orphan Kind, Hifts Orphan, Feed Our World, and the Mosque Project. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists, with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Albeit has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albeitlodge.co.za.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
It's 18 minutes past 11. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. And on our parenting segment today, we are talking about to parents about the issues that they are facing with the director of programs at Save the Children South Africa, Gugu Xaba. Gugu, thank you for staying with us. Now, one of the focuses of the organization is to highlight the voice of the children. How can parents do this? Gugu? We lost sound there. I cannot hear you. We lost sound there with Gugu, our guest. We'll try to reestablish a connection there. Gugu, if you can hear me, please allow for the mic. If you are mute, please unmute so that we can continue this discussion. We are talking about highlighting the voices of children and how parents can do this. When it comes to issues such as abuse of all types, it's difficult for children to come out and talk about their abuse. Sometimes even the chatterbox, the one who is considered the chatterbox, will also have an issue talking about their problems, because really, abuse is not something that someone can easily come out and talk about, because you're not sure how the adult in question is going to respond to this, because most of the time the abuse is done, it comes from an adult and goes to the child. So when you try to speak to an adult about the abuse, about what has happened to you, it can be a stressful and difficult time. So we are trying to find out how parents can open up that space for their children or any other children to talk to them about their situations, whether it's abuse of any kind, or perhaps they're suffering from a mental illness, perhaps they're suffering from depression or anxiety or something else that they aren't able to put into words how they're feeling, or they cannot explain what they are going through. All right, we have Ms. Gugu Xaba on the phone instead to continue the conversation. Ms. Gugu, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
All right. All right. Right. Let's continue this conversation. One of the focuses is to highlight the voices of children, and how can parents do this?
All right. Thank you very much for that question. I earlier on indicated that a child grows well in a certain environment. And I'd like to give you an example. When a child is born, they are very young, and maybe people think they don't learn or they don't grow. But within 5 days, the child knows the mother, knows the voice of the mother. And so children learn and develop attachments to the environment that they are in. Within 5 days, again, if you're going to put a child and not feed them, and they keep crying for the food throughout the day, an environment is being created that is negative, and that is going to cause the child to develop certain coping mechanisms of living in that environment, because they are not given food. Now, child participation begins in the tummy of the mother, where you communicate with the child. The communication must continue as the child is growing. The adult that is around the child needs to display a certain behavior so that the child absorbs that and wants to live like that. Interaction with the child, socializing with the child, expressing love to the child, grooms the child. And the child understands that I'm a social being, I need to do this and respond in this way. If someone is smiling to me, if someone is crying, I kind of tense up. So child participation begins there. And then now, as the child is growing, they develop ways of understanding that this one I can trust, this one I cannot trust. This one I can confide in, this one I cannot. And looking at my behavior as an adult, a child is able to say, this person is reliable, this one is not. So eventually relationships begin. So parents need to understand that the attachment of children begins very early, and it continues on a day-to-day basis on what we expose the child to. If the child is watching us, we are fighting, the child tenses up, and the child may decide, okay, so how am I going to cope with this? And they decide how they're going to cope. They may close up. A certain child will be a chatterbox because of the environment that they are in. And if they are encouraged to talk, because what they say is important, so adults must listen. One thing we know, adults don't listen. Then the child ends up deciding, okay, this one I can talk to, this one I cannot talk to. So child participation is very important, and parents need to play the role from the beginning of the pregnancy. Let me stop.
Wow. We know you would never think that starting early on, like as early as pregnancy, actually contribute in grooming and raising the child to be the best version of themselves. Now, many children go through abuse in different forms. How can this be addressed, especially with our little ones who cannot really bring themselves to talk about what has happened to them?
Okay, thank you, Madam, the question. About abuse, it's one of the biggest problems that we're battling with as a country. South Africa is even listed as maybe the top 10 violent countries in the world. So now, abuse, again, abuse begins and occurs in different ways. Again, the environment comes in. What environment are we bringing the child in? Who are the responsible adults around the child? And then the child is exposed to an environment and people. Now, abuse occurs in different ways. We've got physical abuse, which parents match to children and think it's allowed, and it's not allowed. You and I know, you mentioned it earlier, corporal punishment has been banned in the school and in the home, simply because it has not developed children. Instead, it has destroyed children. Also because angry parents beat children, and yet they are releasing their anger on a child, and the child is not part of that cause of their anger. So, and it has physically destroyed children. Then it also destroys them emotionally. Because once a child is deciding that I'm going to hold back my emotions, I'm going to close down in order for me not to feel that pain when I'm being beaten, we are developing an angry adult. We are developing an adult that has no peace. And as soon as that happens, that child is going to take it over to the next person. Because what they are learning is that, okay, when something wrong has happened, I need to fight for it. I need to solve it by fighting. And they will solve it that way forever. And now, that is why intergenerational issues need to be sorted, because older generations use their power over children. And children think, okay, this is the way we solve problems, they're going to do it forever. So that is the reason why it's important for adults around children to behave appropriately, to teach them properly, so that we develop children that can deal with the future in a rational way. The other thing, when children observe violence, and this is fully researched, when they observe violence, not that you're beating them, but you're beating somebody else, they learn. Okay, this is how we do things. And so they are also going to do it. So there are many forms of violence that children, they observe it or is meted on them, and eventually they learn that that's the way of doing things. And yet that's not the way of doing things. Thank you.
That's so true. And then, sometimes we have the older generation, as you mentioned, thinking that using your power or just beating the child is a good way to raise them, to raise disciplined kids. And all you're doing is raising fearful kids. You're raising kids who are going to turn out to be violent, and it becomes a cycle, it becomes a chain that needs to be broken. And if we're not going to deal with that problem now, we are just going to be breeding and recreating a generation of violent kids and violent adults who are going to be contributing gender-based violence that we are already facing as a country. Now, responsive care sends children the message that they are important, that their needs will be met, and that they are appreciated. It also provides children a secure bond with parents or caregivers, which results in the child feeling safe. How can this bond be created in order for the child to feel it's safe to speak to the parent regarding issues like being abused?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. The statement that you referred to is very important and very correct. Now, as I said, as a child grows in the tummy, and the other thing that I think I should indicate is that we've got what we call the window of opportunity, which is the first 1,000 days of a child's life. This is when a child is growing rapidly, and this is where a parent has a great opportunity to strengthen the attachment of the child, to strengthen the way the child is going to grow. And then we will have changed generations if we contribute to building children within the first 1,000 days of life. One, their brains are growing very fast. Physically, they are growing very fast. Their communication skills, their emotional skills are growing. So if we invest in that time, we will have changed generations. How do we do it? Look, just taking care of the pregnancy, making sure that the child is growing well, the mother is healthy, is eating well, and it's not abusing alcohol and all that, because that will influence the child negatively. And the mother is in a calm environment and a healthy environment. Then eventually the child is born. When the child is born, the parents are ready, waiting to take care of the child. Parents need to understand that a child, when they come into earth, it needs time. So it means if you had 5 hours to yourself, now you have 2 hours to yourself, but 3 hours are going to the child. So parents want to live as if they do help the child. They won't spend time with the child. That is also a challenge. Now, again, resources are needed to bring this child up. The child needs to be breastfed, which builds a relationship between the mother and the child. It also has the child to grow well because it's got the best nutrients. And now that the child is off breastfeeding, you continue caring for them, in talking to them, in teaching them. Teaching is important, playing with the child, so that you build a good social being. And in that way, we are able to have a child understanding that this is abuse, this is not abuse. Because they learn it even before they are taught. And then they're able to communicate where there is a problem, where there is exploitation. But we need responsible and responsive adults around the child. In that way, we'll build a resilient society. Thank you.
Definitely. And quickly, Gugu, how can people learn more about Save the Children South Africa or get assistance?
Okay. We've got a website. It's www.sc.org.za. Please go into that website. You will get contacts of the people that you need to communicate with. If you need to contribute to Save the Children, there is a donate button if you need to donate. And we do need people to work with us. So we do need volunteers in different communities, because for all the things that I've said today, we need every South African to say the same thing, to do the same thing. In that way, we'll be able to turn around our situation. So volunteers are welcome so that we can work together, speak the same language, and turn around our society to be a good quality society and to produce good future leaders. Thank you.
We have a question here from one of our listeners, Leah Lynette Roberry, says, "Good morning, Mama Xaba. There is a digital pandemic taking place right now. Our kids are addicted to the unhealthy dopamine they receive from social media platforms. They engage in a virtual, yet it decides what success looks like for them. Many internet ads on game sexual in their content. How much influence is this having on future generations?" Quickly.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. We are currently actually teaching adults and children on safety online, because we realize that the digital world has brought messages, has brought exposure to sexual material, exposure to violent material that destroys the mind of our children. So it means children, adults need to work together. One, we need to censor what our children are being exposed to. Again, I don't think as soon as I put the child in front of TV, the child is not bothering me, it's okay. And yet it's causing destruction on the child. So it's important that adults must be ready to negotiate with children that this you can watch, this you cannot watch. And this is the reason why you cannot watch it. And same thing, if we give our children phones, we've got apps right now that are able to tell the adult what site is the child viewing, and you can block certain sites so that the child can be able to watch what is age appropriate. So parents need to work with us and parent properly. You know, just caring what your child is watching is one way of protecting the child from online terrible material, and then exposing them, teaching them what is right and what is not right, so that eventually, as they grow into their teens, into their young adulthood, they know what is wrong and what is right, and then they can make better decisions.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Mama Xaba. We don't have much time left with us. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. That was the programs director, or director of programs rather, at Save the Children South Africa, Gugu, taking us through how we can open up the conversations, or give the children, highlight the voice of children, and how can we do this as parents. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. It is 11:35. We will be right back.